Beloved sister, happy full moon in Sagittarius. This is a full moon of meaning and myth and mystery. This is a full moon of moving from dopamine hits of a modern tech era to devotion. So if you've been stuck in the loop of doing the inner work and having breakthroughs even, consuming a lot of spiritual information, as many of us women do, and yet you're not having the actual transformation, this full moon is for you. Because Sagittarius is definitely the sign of the seeker. She is the eternal student of truth. She is the cosmic adventurer, the torchbearer, the storyteller, and she is rising to guide us home, not to more content, but to our inner compass. This full moon is the medicine for the woman who is tired of seeking truth outside of herself and everyone else's method. If she is craving depth over speed, if you are craving meaning over noise, if you are ready to trust the map that lives in your womb, in your art, in your heart, in your blood, in your story. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion and divine wisdom, letting us remember that freedom is not found in more information, but in embodied knowing. The mythic imagery of Sagittarius is half horse, half human, the centaur. Animal instinct meets divine intellect. She gallops into the unknown, not to conquer it, but to experience it. She craves adventure. She wants to expand through it. She wants to gather sacred data for the soul. You may recognize her in yourself. She's the one who never quite fits into boxes, the one who resists the shoulds, the adventurer. She craves meaning more than approval. And she rises not just as the wisdom keeper, but as a woman of many names. The truth seeker who doesn't just guard truth, she hunts for truth. She doesn't just repeat stories, she shapes them. She knows that life is a quest, and you are the question. She's known as the compass holder, who no longer seeks direction outside of herself because she has become the way. She's known as the soul cartographer, charting the map, not with ink, but with the lived experience she's said yeses to as she has stepped into the unknown. Sagittarius, fire sign, is also the flame tender. She keeps the flame, the sacred tribal flame around which the ancient story is told and retold. She lights the torches of those who have forgotten their way. And we want to remember that in many Native American tribes, the ancient grandmother was the one who tended the sacred fire all year long, kept it burning through the winter. That was a very revered task, a very revered role. The fire keeper, the fire tender, she holds the kernel of warmth and the continuity of survival that is the storyline for the tribe. So when we think about Sagittarius, we do want to stay with that imagery of the elder. She sits right across from her polarity, who's Gemini, who of course just hit the Gemini new moon. Always Gemini is paired with Sag. That's the cosmic choreography of the astrology and of the universe. So appropriate to this wheel of life, the elder Sagittarius, so as the fire signs like kick off the energy of the new phase, and this is the final phase of the crone. We have Gemini over in the phase of the maiden, who is the curious inner child within. And she asks Gemini, this constantly seeking curiosity. The wise crone Sag asks, what if all your seeking was never about the answer, but just about who you are becoming in the asking? So tonight on this full moon, we enter into that sacred polarity, that of the elder and the daughter. The one who asked why, as Gemini, now speaks with the voice of the woman who knows the answer. And she knows it only because she's lived it and she's earned it, and she understands that truth is not a concept. It's a flame in her belly. So, sister, bring your questions, bring your overstimulated mind, your searching heart, your craving for something real, not another method, not another Instagram post, not another free 7-step program, not another course, not another fix. Come to remember here in this full moon that the one truth that cannot be bought, sold, or taught is that the answers live inside of your sacred feminine body. The medicine is your story. The compass is your womb. Welcome, love, to the firelight of remembrance this full moon. Welcome to our monthly journey down the feminine path of moon codes. So we arrive in the light of the Sagittarius full moon to feel her pulling against the memory of the Gemini new moon 2 weeks ago. The maiden whose mouth is full of questions. Gemini, always the chatty one. And here, the Sag, the crone whose silence holds the answers born of fire and experience. As always, these polarities aren't opposites. These are sacred initiatory partners in crime. They hold the polarity of the day and the night, the masculine and the feminine, the yin and the yang. They are the cosmic student, that is Gemini, and the embodied teacher, that is Sag. They are bound together, always in a single feminine becoming. Two halves of the same sacred breath. Inhale, Gemini, curiosity. Exhale, Sag, truth. Gemini, that quick-witted, quick-eyed, hungry to explore little one who plays with words like beads in her palm, flitting from fascination to fascination. She asks the questions no one dares to ask and chats like there's no tomorrow. But she doesn't always stay long enough to hear the answer. That's the thing about the little one, right? Whereas Sagittarius, her elder sister, has walked farther. She's the one who's turned those same questions into quests. She left the comfort of security and rode straight into the fire of her life's journey. She didn't just ask why, she just lived her way into the answer itself. And now, this wise crone returns with stories made of bone, made of breath. Not surface sound bites, but soul-etched teachings. Gemini sparks the question, but Sagittarius lives the answer. Gemini speaks in curiosity. Sagittarius speaks in spells. This polarity exists inside of you. You are not just the seeker, you are also the one who has found. You are not just the daughter still learning, you are also within you, no matter how old you are. Woman, you are the elder. Your younger self prayed would come. That is the wisdom that lives inside of your womb. So this polarity of Gemini Sag holds a message for every woman who's ever tried to find her power in someone else's words or method or map. Because Gemini reminds us that it's okay to explore, so important, but Sagittarius reminds us, eventually, you got to return back to your own knowing. You must become your own North Star, your own compass. Because truth is not a trick you can download. It's not a 6-step plan. It's a path we as wise women, as priestesses, we walk barefoot, vulnerable. And that's what builds our strength and our wisdom. And in this moment, under this moon, we are called now to move from the over-informed and under-integrated woman, from dopamine to devotion. Now, there is certainly an ache to be spoken about beneath the surface of our scrolling. The hunger that lives behind our highlights, our bookmarked rituals. You maybe know what I'm talking about. I have several on my screen right now. You know, I'm a teacher, so I have an excuse. No, I'm just kidding. I'm learning right alongside you, always looking inside. And in fact, I am a Sagittarius sun, so I'm very familiar with this teacher archetype. But let's name the shadow of this age that's very real here in this conversation. We are all overinformed and underintegrated. We are educated in healing, but not embodied in the healing or the knowing necessarily. We may have collected insights and books, maybe more than our nervous system can actually metabolize. So if you've always been the good student, reading and refining and learning and reaching for the next tool, the next teacher, the next podcast that will finally crack the code, and you're exhausted, it's not because you're lazy or undisciplined, but because you've mistaken someone else's voice for your own. Gemini, the child, says, tell me what to do. But Sagittarius says, let me tell you a story about how I figured it out. So in the sacred mirror of this full moon, Sag looks at you not with judgment, but with deep compassion as the wise elder, and she knows the path well. The adrenaline rush of the aha moment, the breakthrough, right? The high of discovery and the crash that follows when we don't give it a place to land. We're talking about the difference between a breakthrough and an actual transformation. These are two different things that can often get confused. Just because we make a realization, we write it in our journal, we take a great course, it doesn't mean we own within our body that knowing. Sag whispers to you this full moon, you live in a culture that taught you to seek truth out there. But I have a better question, daughter. What if the wisdom you seek is not in the next pod, or this, but in fact, it's actually in the story that your body is already telling? What if your seeking is simply a disguised longing to come home to yourself, the oracle of your womb? Because no one can walk our path for us. No teacher, system, or book, no matter how beautiful and enlightened, can replace our lived knowing. This is the wisdom of Sag. Sag doesn't want your obedience. She wants your honesty, your presence, your power, your commitment to your own myth, not just consuming other myths. And so this full moon asks you, can you stop collecting for a minute? Can you stop chasing? Can we turn inward? Can we stop the scroll? Can we stop the chat? Can we let the wisdom we already carry rise by giving ourselves space to look within and ask the question? Not another mentor, not another mantra, just you, raw, real, and ready. All right, let's talk about dopamine versus devotion. So many spiritual women today are overwhelmed by stimulation, endless courses and Instagram quotes, spiritual trends. But this isn't just about distraction. It's about a nervous system crisis of the modern information age. The priestess path, it's a lived, embodied devotional path. Devotion lives in the parasympathetic nervous system, the state of soft receptivity and relaxation, not overdrive. When we regulate the body, we can receive guidance instead of chasing it. So often a better use of 5 minutes instead of Googling the thing is to go outside and take a breath. It's to dance to a 2-minute song. We want to replace short-lived dopamine hits with deep devotional rituals rooted in the feminine. This feminine path doesn't come through more content. It comes through the inner map of the body and ritual and remembrance that lives in our cells. Sag is associated with truth-seeking, but under the feminine lens, truth isn't about dogma. It's about the body. It's about a felt sense. And we, as well-educated, well-read, spiritual women, we're often exhausted by being in our heads. The feminine mystery here is that wisdom doesn't live in our mind. It rises from our womb, our breath and our hips and our blood memory. And this Sag moon invites us to return to an embodied gnosis. Truth not as something to learn or consume, but to live through the body temple. So let us remember what the ancients knew, that the stars above actually mirrored the waters of our womb. And that the truth we seek isn't out there. It is pulsing in our body's rhythms, our own archetypal mythical journey, and creative expression. And in the sacred silence we keep between the words. So tonight we call on the goddess Urania, the star-crowned muse of the heavens. She is the original soul cartographer, the cosmic priestess who never asked Siri for directions because she held the map in her hands, in her heart, and in her holy art as goddess of the stars. She was also the daughter of the goddess of memory. So this little fact is important because it means that she doesn't give us new information. She awakens what we have always already known. How many times do we look to the astrology and we're like, what do I do? Look to the astrology, right? When really we can also just drop into ritual and look to the astrology within. Urania speaks to the high-achieving woman who's exhausted by the endless downloads and blogs, and who wonders what's wrong with me that I've read all the right books and I still feel lost, because we all feel like that sometimes, because that's our journey, that's our path. Sag knows that doesn't end. Urania answers for Sag, you are not behind, you've been taught to, it's just that you've been taught to look in the wrong direction. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a map to be read from the inside out. So the wisdom in that inner map, it's here in the moon cycle, the full and new moons that mirror our moods. It's here in the sacred blood that rises and falls with cosmic time. It's in the art we create when no one is watching and we're not going to show it to anyone. It's in the song we sing in the shower that reminds us who we are. It's in the altar we build from our own grief and our longing, and in the myth we see repeated in our own life. These are not hobbies. These are priestess tools, tools of Sagittarius. This is how the feminine remembers. We don't Google our way to wisdom. We spiral into it. We bleed into it. We dance it. We dream it. We weave it into story and song and silence. Sag, ruled by Jupiter, wants expansion, but the feminine path, expansion isn't about speed, it's about depth. It's not about collecting more facts, it's about integrating what your body already knows. So when we feel confused, let's not ask ChatGPT or rush to another healer. Let's actually check first with taking a walk under the stars and painting something messy and bleeding in the dark and listening, taking your womb cave, touching the earth and praying, because the map isn't missing. It's just buried beneath your search history, woman. So Urania reminds us to just brush the dust off our inner compass, our inner knowing. She holds a globe of the stars in one hand and points to your womb with the other. Look here, she says, because this is where the universe wrote her finest poem. She's here to remind us that longing for meaning is not a weakness or a distraction. It is our priestess rising. It is the ache of our inner elder asking to speak and grow. So let her tell your story. Not the polished one, but the raw, mythic, holy one, the quest. Because we will find, as women on the path, that the answers we speak are not waiting at the end of a search bar. They are curled inside our own becoming. They are not in someone else's knowing, but written inside of us. So let me tell you a truth I've personally lived. There's a time when I was doing everything right in my life, reading all the books, showing up to all the workshops, reciting affirmations until my voice cracked. I had the vision boards, the morning rituals, the well-curated sacred bookshelf, and yet I still felt like a stranger to myself. Every decision felt like a quiz I could fail. Every pause felt like I was falling behind. Every spiritual upgrade only made me more disconnected from my own body. Because I had been trained, just like so many of us, to value someone else's method over my own intuition. To trust the latest trend over the ancient pulse in my bones. And then one day, the seeking just stopped. And Not because I'd finally arrived and figured it out, but because I got tired of abandoning myself to chase the next big truth. So the feminine guided me, and instead of looking for more info, I need to listen inward to my dreams, to the ache in my hips, in my womb, to the no that I kept overriding, and the yes I kept ignoring, to the full body knowing that didn't need to be explained to anyone. And that's when things began to shift for me. Not all at once, softly and quietly. The way of flame steadies when you cup your hands around it. And maybe you felt this too, that moment when you realize you're not confused, you need to drop in. You don't need more input, but more integration, more time and space to look in, to journal, to sit in silence. We don't need to be told what to do. We need to trust that our soul already knows. This is the feminine path. And this is the collective wound we're healing under this moon, this shadow of the full moon. We've spent so long being good students of other people's wisdom that we forgot how to honor our own woman. But your lived experience is your curriculum, your heartbreak, your holy rage, your desires and patterns and family history. These are not distractions on the path. These are initiations. We're being led inward to our own medicine. So tonight, the question for you is, what story are you telling about your journey? Is it the story of a woman always behind, trying to catch up? Or about a woman on the cusp of deep embodiment, deep embodied wisdom? And can you stop asking, what should I do? How do I fix me? How do I fix this? And start asking, what do I know in my bones is true? Because the real shift happens when we stop looking for a new voice to follow, a new path to follow, a new method, and we start listening to the one rising from within, our wild wisdom, codes that the moon activates. Your body is the compass, your womb and your breath is the bridge, and you don't need to figure it out, woman. You just need to feel into it. You might place a candle on your altar and whisper into it, I trust the fire that lives in me more than the noise that surrounds me. I bless my lived experience as a sacred scripture. I remember the wisdom that was never lost, only buried within. And this moment is the return, not to a system or a guru, but to your own inner altar. Come back. Sag says, come back, mama. This place where your life and your body and your art and your blood and your stories all speak the same sacred language. And it says, I already know. I have everything I need right here. Now, let's speak about the shift you've longed for. The shift from the rush of stimuli to the sanctuary of your soul. Because this culture does. It runs on dopamine, the hit, the high, the constant hum of more. The high of, I figured it out. But as a woman of wisdom, you've been taught to confuse stimulation for aliveness. We might click and save and bookmark, but we can't consume insight like candy and hope it will satisfy something deeper. Wisdom is a rhythm, not the sugar rush of aha, but the soup of your experience. Slow and nourishing, ritual fed. We're not meant to chase life, but to devote to it. Because dopamine always fades, but devotion roots. It steadies us in the storm. It says, I will meet myself here again and again, even when there's no finish line and no one's watching. That's what creates wisdom. And that's what it means to live our truth, not just learn about it. So let me ask, what are you devoted to when no one's validating you? And what becomes sacred when you're not seeking an outcome? This Sagittarius full moon asks us to fall back in love with meaning, not hype or shortcuts, but the kind of meaning that only comes from paying attention to the moon, to your bleed, to your longings and your limits, to the part of you that doesn't need fixing, only witnessing. It's the journaling instead of the consuming. And this is devotional living and priestess embodiment. And this is what Sag really means when she says truth. It's not opinion or performance. It's the wild, radiant stillness of a woman who knows who she is. So repeat this mantra with me now. I am no longer chasing the light. I am becoming the flame. Devotion, what does it even look like for the feminine? Because it doesn't have to be grand or performative. It doesn't have to be, a big hoo-ha. It can be soft, repetitive, inward. The act of choosing presence. It might be brushing your hair like it's a ritual. It might be drinking water like it's a communion, a ceremony of life pouring back into us. Lighting a candle before checking your phone. I lit a candle here before diving in with you. I love this idea of lighting a candle before checking your phone and whispering to your phone, show me what matters. Isn't that beautiful? Like that amount of presence with your phone. Yes, these are the types of skills we're going to need in this age. Feminine reverence is tracking our cycles, tracking the moon, making art with no audience, just because our soul needs to speak, writing one true sentence a day, something real and raw, unmarketable. Stepping outside at moonrise, even for just 3 minutes, just to say, I remember. Stepping outside for sunset, stepping outside for sunrise. Sitting on the floor instead of rushing ahead. Dancing for your own pleasure. To pray with your hips. And these are not distractions. Priestess practices. This is the root of wisdom. This is the root of the feminine way. And this is how our bodies remembers the soul's truth. Because devotion isn't about impressing people. It's about becoming someone you trust to stay with you. I have this beautiful postcard that says, the only people worth impressing. It says, your inner child and your elder. So let's close this down with a big breath together. You've walked the path of the daughter and the path of the elder woman. You've remembered that the map is in your own body. You've honored the journey from innocent questions to lived answers in this ritual here together today. And now you stand in the firelight of the Sagittarius full moon, ready not to figure it out, but to live it out. Because this world will keep trying to sell us certainty. But this moon asks us to choose meaning instead of certainty, because the truth isn't always quick. It isn't flashy or branded, but it is real, and it is yours. And it will walk with you if you let it. And it will sustain you as nourishment, as food if you let it. So as we close, let's make this prayer together. May we stop outsourcing our knowing to strangers with louder voices. May we spiral back into our own bodies, our first and forever oracle. May we remember that we were never meant to be perfect, only true. And may we walk our path not to prove, but to offer. May our devotion be our direction. And when the noise returns, because it will, because this is the age we live in, may we come back to our own flame and whisper, I am on the path. Woman, I wish you a blessed Sagittarius full moon, this moon of the quest for innocence, this meeting of the Gemini daughter and the Sagittarius wise woman coming together in union, divine union of yin and yang. That is your true nature, your true essence. And the Sag moon is here to remind you. And that reminding, sure, it comes from listening to me through this transmission, but more than the words, it comes from what's underneath, what hits you. What are you journaling about tonight? What is true for you on your path? So get the outside under the light of the full moon. Go directly to the source, woman. Go to the trees, go to the forest, go to the sea, go to your breath, go to your moon blood, go to your bath. Because you're going to get more from that than your next Google search or Insta scroll. Blessed be, beloved.